We always had pets growing up. I have four sisters, and I think part of keeping a family, happy and busy is to have a couple cats around or a dog, and it just was a part of our life. Even after I left home and was finished with school and everything, there was still always at least a cat in my life.
Yay! Good boy.
The first time I saw him sitting there, I was amazed at his size, and I knew just by looking at him that he was a yellow lab, but I knew he had something else because yellow labs don't usually get that big. And he was just sitting there looking out, very quiet, not jumping around like you see a lot of the dogs do, just very kind of sedate and just watching. He had just come up from the south with a number of other puppies that were coming up. That we also rescue from the south that are going to be in high-kill shelters. And the family that had him had to move. The landlord wouldn't allow a dog this size. They didn't have anybody who would take him, so they turned him into their local shelter. And he would have been euthanized because of his age. He was already 5 years old, and because of his size. And the day that I saw him sitting in that cage and looking out through the chain link and heard his story, I just knew that I had to take him home because he was an older dog. He was a big dog. He was unlikely to immediately find an adoptive home unless we could discover some things about him that we could use to encourage people to look at him to adopt.
Let's go.
And the shelter was really helpful. I did have some concerns because of his size, thinking what's going to happen when I'm on the other end of this leash of this dog who's going to be, up to 100 pounds. But, they're really supportive, like they always are. They get to know the people well enough, and they get to know the animals well enough, they can say, this should be a good match for you. And there's always, if you went home and said, I really don't think he's going to fit here, they're very understanding. The basic things that can be discovered in a foster home is this dog's attitude toward other people, towards strangers, towards children, towards other dogs and other pets. Also, how they are when they're left alone. Do they need somebody around all the time, or are they good on their own? That if you go off to work or off to school, that he'll be happy to, wait for you at the end of the day. And whether he's treat motivated or, how he responds to a reprimand, if you say don't do that or drop that. Is he housebroken? How does he let you know that he wants to go out? Just kind of basic things that I think give people the information that they need when considering an adoption. So they can look at a certain dog and say, I can see this dog in my home. And it's kind of like you think, okay, if he's good with cats and he's good with other dogs, and I've got a 7-year-old, then I can feel comfortable taking this dog home with me. And that's something that if they're only in the shelter, you can get clues, but it's not the same as being fostered. He came home with me, and we learned a lot about him in the first 24 hours and much more as the weeks went by. And he had obviously had some training. He knew a lot of commands. He was a really friendly dog, not a big kisser, but he would love to climb in your lap. He met our cats without any trepidation, but definitely did not want to cuddle with them. He had a little bit of a distance, which was good. When he first came here, he didn't really stay in one place. He would go upstairs, he would come downstairs. He would wander around. He would, try out the rug, he would try out the couch. So these are some of the commands that we learned at the shelter, and with the trainer who helps us there. And everything is done with a treat if you have a treat motivated dog, which he definitely is. Can you sit for me? Sit. Down. Good. Good boy. Okay. Come on. Sit. So. Come on. Let's do this again. Okay. Sit. 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 Good boy. My goodness. What a good puppy dog. What a good puppy dog you are. What big teeth you have. Oh my goodness. Don't get scared by the furniture. So another thing I learned about him is that he likes to have his whole body scratched, and not so much a head petter, and that was something that he almost seemed to be shy when I was petting his head, and you wonder, did he get it caught in something at one time, or did somebody smack him on the head when he wasn't doing something right? So, but he'll lean up against you and really wants to get scratched this whole length of his body. So that's his comfort. That's his comfort area. And these are all these little things are things that you can share, on a foster when, you're giving information about a dog that you're not going to discover in the shelter. Welcome. I knew that Gulliver would be good in a lot of different homes. I knew that because I knew that he didn't really have any barriers, in his personal ways to behave around anyone. Everybody was welcomed. Everybody, was a friend. Truly, I think he could have lived almost anywhere. I think also the most satisfying thing when you do foster a dog or a cat even, and they do get adopted, you know that you really did something, that this happened because of you. Oh, a big key. Wait. Get that stick. Get that stick. He was so at home here. When he started climbing up on the couch to sit next to me and to put his head in my lap, and the entire couch was filled with 75% of Gulliver and 25% of me, but he was comfortable. He would take a nap. He just looked like he belonged, and he looked like this is where he was saying, I know my place here, and this is where I want to be. So it was kind of a combined thing. I felt that way toward him, and I think I was getting the sense that he felt that way toward me. You just kind of know. It just becomes, this is the dog that we were looking for, but maybe didn't know we were looking for this dog.